Hey kids, this is ADV Trust and we're headed to Alabama Hills and the Volcanic Tablelands. So basically the trip started out in Alabama Hills, and if you're curious where Alabama Hills is, if I zoom out here a little bit, you will be able to see there's Fresno, and then from Fresno, Vegas and San Francisco and that area, right? So Alabama Hills is down in the south, and I went down there thinking, oh, well, we've gotten a lot of snow up here, so hopefully I will be able to camp and not have to camp in the snow and not, freeze my cojones off at night. So I went down there on a Saturday, got to Alabama Hills about 2 o'clock, and this is where, all the movie sets, where they filmed a lot of the Lone Ranger and things were filmed. And there's absolutely, I could not find any camping down here, and they've reduced the amount of sites that are available. So there was nothing available down at kind of the more rocky, scenic movie set area. So what I did was I headed down the main road to an area we had camped at before, and there was signage all over the place, no camping. So I ended up kind of going down, I think it's Hogback Road, and I found a lovely campsite, which was perfect, right? And pretty much had the entire place. I think I saw maybe 2 other cars. Then from Alabama Hills, I went to the Manzanar National Historic Site, which is an internment camp for Japanese Americans during World War II. Really moving place to go. And then from there, I headed up to the Tablelands. And the Tablelands, you continue to go up 395. And the Tablelands are going to come in off of Highway 6. And you can see the volcanic Tablelands here. And the Tablelands are awesome. And I did this, I think it's, Fishlow Road. And there are tons of petroglyphs, really nice trails. It's like my new favorite place. I really want to go back and explore it more. Had no idea, it was there. I mean, that's why we go out and reconnoiter these places. And the Tablelands are right near, here's Bishop, so just north of Bishop, and a little bit south of east of Mammoth Lakes. And you can see the sites that I checked out along here. So let's go check out what this was like. So the road going into Alabama Hills, at least when I went, there was a big detour, and the detour is super scenic, and there's a couple little places you could probably camp along it. So I went ahead and headed in, and again, as I said, I couldn't find any camping. And then in one of the sections here, it's completely fenced off. It's very clear these animals are tame, they're not wild mules. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure these are someone's mules that they actually use maybe during the packing season, and then they turn out in this land during the winter. Of course, I have horses, so it was really cool to see, and I have an extreme fondness in my heart for mules anyway. They're just great animals in all their traits and characteristics, so I definitely had to stop and give them a little love. And if you're heading to Alabama Hills, really just have in your mind that you most likely are not going to find a campsite in the scenic movie area of Alabama Hills. Don't be discouraged. There's plenty of camping available in the BLM lands around Alabama Hills, and you're still going to have, if not have better, views of the Eastern Sierras. And this time of year, I was really impressed by how much snow had fallen and was available. Additionally, I do some walking around. I came across these beautiful elk tracks and was really inspired by thinking that, I might see an elk, because they were super fresh. And as you can see, there's a lot of snow in the Eastern Sierras at this time of year. This is March. And from my campsite, I had a spectacular view of them, which, you know, feeds my soul. From my campsite, I noticed across the way there was some uniformly stacked rocks. So I took a little hike over there and found this, what looks to be like an old homestead. Two homesteads kind of near each other, probably built, you know, in the late 1880s or somewhere around there, when this was like a sheep, cattle ranching. People were staking claims to the land, and it was really cool to, you know, kind of have a poke around. And then from there, I headed out because I spent a day in the Alabama Hills area. I had been there before. I'll put a link up to the video in this video. There was really a site I was very interested in going to see, which is called the Tablelands. I had read a couple archaeological papers written by some scientists about some of the petroglyphs and early history of this area. And I'm really into, you know, California history, early people's history, so I wanted to get a start and head up that way. One of the things you'll pass as you head up 395 is Manzanar. Manzanar was a Japanese-American internment camp that I think was active between 1943 and 1945. If you get a chance, again, it's part of, you know, our California history, our history. It's really worth, you know, to go they have an excellent display set up that talks about the history of the area, the history of the early peoples, the history of the town of Manzanar. And then you can do a driving tour, walking tour through the site. One of the things that they have is a cemetery that the people that were interned there, the Japanese Americans that were interned there, used. And the driving tour, it's one of those things that I think it's important that we have these sites, that we take care of these sites, that we take care of the history. The only way we're not going to repeat the mistakes of the past and the errors of our past is to have these reminders, right? This is where we sent almost 12,000 people, 12,000 Americans during World War II, pulled them from their schools, their homes, their families, and I want to say without any regard to what they had done in their lives. So from there, I headed over to the Tablelands, and I've never been there. This was, a reconnoiter trip to see, hey, is this of interest at all? And I'll say, it's friggin' amazing. Now, I love history, I love early history, and this was like petroglyph history. I saw more petroglyphs on this trip than I have in a long time. This looks like the outline of a wigwam, which was prehistory, early history, native history house. Here was a huge rock with a bunch of grinding stones in it. Now, I don't know how old these sites are. I've got some books on order to learn a little bit more about them. My guess is, of course, they were used all the way up to, Native American history, but my assumption is, based on some of these petroglyphs, is they're probably maybe 8 to 10,000 years old. So this site, if you think about it, then has been in continuous use from early peoples to our Native Americans for thousands of years. And my guess is that this was a natural migration corridor for bison, early camels, mammoths, and other animals, right, traveling up and down the California corridor, range corridor, during different times of years. So this is just a very awesome location. The roads are really, really good. There's lots of spurs that you can go explore, and the views, you've got the Eastern Sierras on one side and then the range on the other. So it's just a very, I'll call it our more closer Yosemite. And then from there, I had headed over to Mono. Mono was just going to be a no-go. There was, a foot or two or more of snow. And so definitely not the time of year, plus the road was closed. Until next time, this is ADV Trust out, and I hope to see you down the trail.